It is the beginning of March and Dad and I are back in the Netherlands. This time we are gonna focus mainly on perch fishing, but maybe also trying to catch a pike or two during the nighttime. Well, we haven't really been fortunate with the weather. It's been quite windy and changing a lot, so a lot of high pressure and low pressure and just lots of different weather which the perch normally really don't like. But we will give it a try and see if we can find some big perch. Once again, we are down here in my Alumacraft and we have no local info or guides or anything like that. That would most definitely be the best way to do it. Get some local knowledge or get a guide to help you out finding the fish. But I just like the possibility to go down there with my own boat and find some fish and really get to know the waters by myself. But I will still recommend you guys getting a guide if you decide to go down here for a couple of days or maybe up to a week. It's really big waters and the perch like migrate a lot, so it's only because I've been fortunate enough to have lots of time down there that I've been able to find some good fish. But a big recommendation to get a guide or at least get some local knowledge when going from home. After spending quite some time scanning around with the side scanner and the live scopes as well, trying to locate where the fish would be, what depth they will be standing on and so on, we found a school of fish close to a steep eddy. It will go from like 2-3 meters of water and down to around 6.5-7 meters. It looked like 5 fish were standing really close to the mussel beds on the edge, so we tried a couple of casts and and we really struck gold on our first stop of the day. At this point we already had 1 fish in the net, and after that landed number 2, I straight away took another cast and we just kept on hammering. And in the next 6.5 minutes we would catch 6 fish above 45 centimeters, with 2 just around the 50 centimeter mark. What an amazing start. This year the water was quite murky and we would therefore start with some quite bright colors like green or maybe orange, and we will almost always get a take or a fish in the first couple of casts if we knew there were fish on the spot. But after 1 or maybe 2 fish, the fish would get spooky and we would have to change to a Carolina or net rig with some natural colored baits. Well, after day 1 success with so many big fish and 5 fish above 50 centimeters, with 3.1, 2.9, 2.8 and 2.7 being the biggest, we had quite high hopes for day number 2. The weather was actually quite bad, but the winds only made the fish bite even harder, so we of course went out, and to our disappointment the fish wasn't on the spot from yesterday, but we have to find them kind of scattered out on a big flat where we can use the live scope and like pinpoint them and cast to them with small paddle tails and get some quite good bites. As many of you guys know, the Netherlands can be very windy at times, and this trip was no different. This trip was really hardcore because the weather would be so bad, so we could only fish a couple of hours here and there. So we would in the nighttime go 1.5 hours, 2 hours fishing, go to sleep maybe 3 hours, go out fish for perch for 2 hours, go home again in the weather, and back and forth so on. So our sleep would be so bad we could only sleep for a couple of hours at a time because we had to use the times where the winds were good. So it was hardcore. We were tired most of the time, but hard work pays off. So it's all about getting out there and get the lines wet. In the few hours we had on the water while perch fishing, we were quite fortunate, lucky or skilled, I don't know, but we found some really good fish standing quite close to shore in some places where almost nobody fished. Actually, we were the only boat out from the ramp, and we didn't meet anybody actually. So we had the fish all to ourselves and could really fish them for an hour, leave them alone for a couple of hours without having to worry that someone else would come and fish the area. So that was quite lucky. Also, the few hours we had out at night for fishing for big pikes, we were quite lucky. The wind was very strong, so we could only fish a very few selected sheltered areas. But we were quite fortunate to find some really big fish as well, up to just under 15 kilos. So everything was good. It was tough, windy, rainy, but big fish kept coming in. Once again, the weather was really bad. In the morning it would be way too windy to be in the water, but around 11 we went out and it seemed like we could fish for 3 hours or maybe 3.5 if we were lucky. And in the evening it was gonna be really bad again, with really strong winds and really heavy rain as well. So we only had a couple of hours and we had to make them count. After searching around for an hour, I found a small group of perch standing on a mud flat. I quickly hit spot lock, and Dad and I took our baits to do the first cast. I was gonna fish the bull cheese in the bright colors, which I knew was gonna get the fish attention and maybe get a bite or two, while Dad was gonna fish the creek crawl in 6.5 centimeters and really fish the bait slow to get even the trickiest of them in the group to take the bait. We ended up only having 2.5 hours of fishing, but we were fortunate enough to find some really good fish and have 51, 51 and 50 as the biggest, and the 49er beneath that. On day number 4 the weather was gonna be terrible and we would only be able to fish from 4 p.m. until the sun would set. But we once again managed to find the same group of fish, at least a group of fish in the same area, and we managed to pick some big ones out of that group. So this day the perch wasn't grouped up at all. They would be staying alone on sandy bottoms on the edges. So we couldn't really like hammer a spot down or find a muzzle bed or anything like that, because they were really not gathered up. So we had to find them one by one, and searching around with the live scope, as you see in the clips like right here, finding a small bump on the bottom. They were really glued to the bottom. Find a small mark and position the boat right and take some short precise cast in front of the boat. It was really the only way we can get some big fish. day number 5 and also our last day on this trip. We had really good weather in the morning, so we head out early because we were only able to fish for a couple of hours before we had to go to the ferry. But we was quite lucky and caught some really nice 50 plus centimeters perch and one last big pike before we had to head home. And that is gonna be it for this video. We were so eager to get back to the Netherlands and catch some more big perch, so we rushed back just before the season ended, which will be shown in another video soon to come.